My name is Bob Mann. I turned professional in 1967. But after turning professional, I then got really involved in a lot of sports. I had concentrated up until that time in golf and played some tennis, but I really, after I turned professional, got very interested in a lot of sports. And in the middle 70s through the end of 1978, as an adult, I did that which I had not done out of high school. I returned to college, or went back to college as an adult, University of Florida Physical Education Department. And I was there for about 4.5 years, enjoyed it very thoroughly. And there were two things that I observed while I was there and participating in all these sports, kayaking, archery, karate, plus keeping my golf game up. First thing I noticed is that the power source in nearly every sport, almost without exception, is the same. Whether it's hitting a golf ball, throwing a punch, throwing a baseball, it's the legs. It's the feet and legs that's the power source in golf, and certainly in karate, throwing a baseball. And if you notice the knockout punches, they're really here in the feet and the legs. It's exactly the same as golf. And tonight, one of the things we're going to do is teach you how to tap in to this power source in such a way that as an automatic response, truly automatic, just by tapping into this motor or power source, you're going to hit the ball not only a lot firmer and more solidly, but truer and more on line. Now that's a claim that, of course, I'll support with the evidence in a few minutes. The second experience I had while being there at the University of Florida was getting involved in archery. Now, for those of you who've never seen target archery, it's quite a beautiful sport, particularly for the participant, I guess a little bit for the spectators. But in target archery, it's very equipment intensive. Now, you have this bow out here with all of these appendages and weights on it, and it's quite an expensive piece of gear. And you push this bow. You don't really hold it, you push this bow. And archers are very, very meticulous and detail conscious, both in the preparation of the equipment and the shot. And boy, you push this bow out here and you put your fingers on that string, and then with these back muscles, you begin to pull that bow, and you pull it, and you pull it, and you pull it, and you pull it, and you get just right, you get the string right on the nose, and as soon as that arrow comes through what's known as the clicker on the bow, you just let go. And if you just simply pull that bow back, pull that string back and let go, the flight of the arrow is beautiful, it's true, and it's natural. But you know what happens if you try to aim that arrow? Oh, you release it, or you try to get it into the target, folks. The arrow flies bad, it flies short, and it doesn't feel good. So in archery, all of the preparation is before the shot, and the shot itself is an automatic natural release. And I got very deeply involved in archery, and I saw some very fine world-class archers, and I said, boy, if I could just make golf like that for myself and my students, that we did all the preparation in front, and that the shot itself was just a joyous, natural, releasing action. And that's how automatic golf had its genesis or start, back there at the University of Florida several years ago, when I was understanding and learning more about the biomechanics of all sports, and therefore improving the mechanics of my golf game, and at the same time seeking after or grasping this feeling, boy, if we can just do all the preparation in advance and then have the shot come off. And the name automatic golf is not one that I came up with. My students came up with it. Said, Bob, if you just do just exactly what you said, it's automatic. And I think that that's what you'll experience here tonight. A method where we do all the preparation before the swing, and the swing just simply occurs. And boy, it's a beautiful experience. The swing becomes an expansive, pleasureful action. It's truly automatic. I want to show you something. I've placed my hands on the club, and I'm going to put my hands out in front of me. My hands are on the club, and all I'm going to do is lower the club. And then I'm going to lower with my knees. And if you notice, I'm in a pretty doggone good starting position. Now watch this. If I bring the club back up, I haven't really changed anything. And if I simply move the club over here without changing it, aren't I in a pretty good position to hit that ball? Now watch this. I'm in the same position, and I can come over here and in that same position, and I guess a lot of us would like to finish every shot about like that. So if you put your hands on that club precisely in a certain manner, and there's only one grip that'll do it, the grip actually does not change throughout the whole swing. Now look what we've done. And all of you know enough about mechanics to know that if we create a machine and eliminate all of these moving parts, all of this, and this, not only have we got a more reliable machine that's going to repeat its action time after time, or in this case, a more reliable swing that will repeat, but also we've increased, not decreased, the power. Now, why does getting all of this floppy movement out of the hands increase the power in a golf swing? Well, folks, you know that if you wanted to go up and hit somebody, you certainly couldn't do much damage like that. The damage comes from the body weight. If we hit somebody like this, we're going to hurt them. But if we go up and hit them like this, it means nothing. It's the same. Even though you know logically that you can't add anything, this is the tendency in golf. And we're going to remove that by placing your hands absolutely, meticulously, in an exact fashion on that golf club. What I want you to do with that little piece of doweling, or your stick for the night, is grip it in your right hand up at the top. Right hand up in the top, just the reverse of where you're going to grip a golf club. And extend it right out in front of you at a 45-degree angle. Not here, but right out in front of you at about a 45-degree angle. Now, not in here, just push it right out there, right out there. Okay, you've learned the first move. You can relax now. You can put that down. And now we're going to look at the left hand. And here's what I want you to do with the left hand. I want you to take this forefinger and simply touch the pad under the thumb. Make certain that the thumb is curved in, not out, not bent, but curved in, right like this. Touch the pad, forefinger against pad, and close up your hand, just like this. This thumb against this pad, this forefinger right here. Just like that. That's fine, folks. Now look at the inside of your hand. And what I want you to do now is close your hand. But I want you to bring these fingers way down here and touch the pad of this hand, just like this. Not like this, but bring them way down here and touch the pad of this hand. So what we've got is the forefinger touching the pad of the thumb laying against this part of the hand, and the fingers right there. Now open your hand ever so slightly, and just pretend that you had a small, tiny little lemon in there in the last three fingers, and you wanted to get all the juice out of it and squeeze it. Just with the last three fingers. Just with the last three fingers. Okay. Now, keep your hand, open it just a little bit. Take that piece of doweling, or your golf club tonight, push it right out in front of you with your right hand, and come in, folks, and put this left hand down on top of the club, right there. Just come in, right there, over on top, not around here, right over, right down on the club, right there. Just like that. Just exactly like that. Now extend the left hand out in front of you. Remove the right hand. Now take your right forefinger. Take your right forefinger, reach up here and touch your left hand, and you'll find two ligaments. Now if you went by the numbers, 45-degree angle, came in and put your left hand over and down on the club, you'll find those two ligaments and a little space in between them. If you did this number, you won't find them. So it's there at 45-degree angles. Find these two ligaments and the little space in between it. Put your thumb in that space, the forefinger up here, and make certain that this space is directly over the shaft of the club. If you're over here to the right, come back, re-grip it, start all over again, and get it centered. If you're over here to the left, this way, come back and center it. This space between these two ligaments, directly over the shaft of the club. Okay, now, for this to happen, painting by numbers again, you must extend the club with your right hand. A 45-degree angle fully extended in front of you. Come up and touch this forefinger to the thumb. Bring these fingers into the pad of the hand, open just enough to come in and put your hand over and down on the club. Close it like you were squeezing a small lemon right here. Let the finger and the thumb go. Let the finger and the thumb go. Now, do you really have it? Yank on it with your other hand. Do you really have it in those three fingers? If you've got it in those three fingers, you've got an angle here, you've got this space right over the shaft, and you can feel this space, you've got your left hand on there properly. Okay. Now, what we're going to do now is put your right hand on, and this will work fine if the left hand's on there just right. So before we do the right hand, let's see you all, without instruction, just put your left hand on the club. I'll walk a little bit around the audience and make certain that we've got the left hand on there properly. Okay. Folks, let me show you this little move right here. This last little move, when we put the left hand on here, is to shorten the thumb and increase the pressure in these three fingers. You see, if the thumb goes up here, we are holding this club in these two fingers. And we're going to get up here and we're just going to flop all over the place. And we're not going to be in this absolutely perfect neutral to neutral to neutral position. So it's right here. The pressure's in these three fingers. These three fingers. Okay, if you have that, we're going to put the right hand on the club now. The way you do that is extend the left hand out in front of you. Take your right hand and take the middle two fingers, the second pad. Not the first pad, not the third, but the second pad, and place it directly on the bottom of the club adjacent to your left hand. These two fingers right here. Now very slowly begin to close by squeezing these fingers. Don't come down here with your hand. Simply close the fingers until you get nearly closed. And what you'll see is that the pad of the right hand makes a perfect pocket for the left thumb. And then just fit that thumb in there and continue to close your hand. And that's all you do. Now what you'll notice is that your right thumb is over on the left side of the golf club. That there's no pressure at all of the right thumb on the shaft of the club. And that's extremely important because those pinching muscles with either hand, they are scared, steer it around the golf course, try to keep the ball in play, patty cake it, kind of swinging it. But when we get these thumbs off the golf club, particularly the right thumb, by gripping it precisely in this manner, the second pad, slowly closing the pressure, bringing the right thumb over the left thumb, or the right pad over the left thumb, and the right thumb on the left side of the club. We could even do this. We could hit the ball fine, just like this. But we can't have the pressure here. Now, as you apply more pressure, and I want you to think about those two fingers, and just kind of squeeze those fingers like you were milking a small lemon there, what you'll notice is you'll get some pressure right here on the back of the right hand. This is good, healthy right hand pressure. And I'm going to do my Arnold Palmer imitation for you, hitting a little maybe 7 or 8 iron punch shot. And I'll show you the right hand functioning in golf. Is that not Arnold? Well, he goes a little more like this, doesn't he? You see? But he's getting the back of this hand right through the shot. Now, we're going to go by the numbers on the whole grip. We come over, place the club in front of us. Down with the left hand. We check the alignment by the space between the two ligaments. We make certain that we've maintained the 45-degree angle, that all the pressure's back here. We could let loose with these two fingers. We come on with the right hand, simply roll the right hand over, fit right down on the thumb, and we've got an absolutely perfect fit. But what we've also got, most important, is two things. We've got a completely neutral position. All we have to do is lower the club. It's in exactly the proper position for the top of the swing, and it's in exactly the proper position for the completion of the swing. Now what I'm going to do at this point is get somebody out of the audience. Can I use you, sir? Could you come on up? And what I'm going to show you is how this system begins to get automatic. Would you leave? Just go ahead and leave the dialing back down. Alrighty. I'm going to talk you through the grip here. Once you've got the grip, I just want you to hold it out in front of you, and then I'm going to get you into position just automatically. Take the club in your right hand, extend it right out in front of you, and grip it up a little bit higher, right up above the grip. Okay, come in with your left hand over and down. I want you to form your hand. Yes, there we go. Form your hand before you get it on there. No rolling or closing. And just simply close the hand. Okay, now we've got a couple things I want you to observe here. I think the face is a little open, so let's start again and get the face square before we start. Good, come in here, set it down right there. All right, let loose with your right hand. You feel most of the pressure in your left hand right here? Extend your left arm. Nope, just extend your left arm. Now you should feel a little pull right back here. Little pull maybe right back here. If you let loose this way, you'd feel all the pull here. I want you to feel it right here. This is a definite, I've got it kind of a feeling. Okay, now give me your right hand. It's much more slowly. These two pads right here, I simply want you to close, and let me do the closing here to get this fitting exactly over the thumb right there. Give me a little more pressure here. To increase the pressure here, let the thumb go. All the pressure off the thumb, and just simply let it ride against the club. So what we should have here is about 60% of the pressure here, 30% of the pressure here, and about 10 here. Is that approximately what we've got?
Sounds good.
All righty. Your hands cohesively together. spread your feet just a little bit, turn your left foot out slightly to the left, and all I want you to do now is don't lower your upper body, just simply look up, keeping this position exactly the same.
All right.
Now folks, we can't do this. We've got to maintain this position because we want it to be totally neutral. Simply lower the club, not your upper body, just simply lower the club, that's right. Now, simply sit down, lower your knees, continue to lower the club with your knees, keeping the hand in exactly this position. No, I don't want you to do anything right there except exactly what it was. Okay, right there. Now, I didn't tell this man about anything about moving 2 inches behind the ball or whatever. Is he not in a perfect, absolutely perfect position? Now, somebody in every audience usually says to me, but Bob, what about if we're hitting a driver and we want the club up in the left side of the stands? And what about if we're hitting a little wedge shot and the club is in the back? I'm going to show you something here. Nothing changes. If we're hitting the ball, or if we're planning on hitting a driver, we have a longer club, we're going to use a wider stance. We put our hands on the club. We stand out here, maybe a slightly closed stance, a wider stance. All we do is the same thing. Watch what happens. We simply lower the club, and the club is forward appearing. Now watch this. We're going to hit a little 8-iron shot. All we do is change the stance. An open stance, a little narrower stance. We move the club down. It appears that the club is in a different position. It's in exactly, precisely the same position relative to the power source. So you see, it's paint by numbers, paint by numbers. And I hope you'll do it on every shot that you hit from now on. Okay, now the next step in making this response truly an automatic, natural action. We've already gone through with this gentleman, but I want to show you what we did. We placed the hands on the club in precisely the manner that we've discussed, and the first step that we do is simply place our feet approximately shoulder width. Approximately. If we're hitting a wood club, we're going to be probably about shoulder width between our feet. And if we're hitting a short iron, about shoulder width on the outside of our feet, but approximately shoulder width. Now the first step next is to simply lower the club. Not to bend over, not to sit down at this point, but to simply add nothing to it, lower the club. Then having lowered the club here, we simply continue to lower by sitting down. And all we do is sit down until we're as far as we want to be. Now, we do not sit down to the point that the club touches the ground. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you what the motor of a golf swing looks like. A golf swing has a motor, and you're going to experience it, or some of you are going to experience it tonight up here, and all of you are going to see it right now. In showing you what the motor of the golf swing looks like, I'm going to show you an exercise that if you'll just do it, if you just won't hit a golf ball for the next week, and if you'll simply do this exercise instead, a week from now you'll be a much better player. What I'm going to do is put my left hand on the club in precisely the manner that we described. I'm going to leave my right hand off, and I'm going to lower the club and just simply lower the club and then lower my knees. Now I'm going to begin to swing the club very slowly. And the only step that I'm going to make, in addition to the one we've described before I start, is I'm going to turn my chin slightly to the right. And I'm going to begin to swing this club slowly, and then faster, and faster, and faster. First thing I want you to observe or hear is the sound of a golf swing as I increase the speed. And the second thing is I want you to tell me where the power source is. What made me able to swing this club faster as I went? Where did the power come from? Okay, I'm going to begin with a nice little tempo. When I wanted to hit it harder, where did I get it from, folks? It's pretty obvious. The feet and the legs. And that's the motor of the golf swing. To activate that motor, we have a little starter. And that starter is a simple move with the right foot and the right knee. But to have it active, we've got to sit down, keep the club off the ground, the weight on the heels. Is it logical that we would start here, go up here with our legs straight, and try to do this when it's just so simple to get in this position. So I'm going to give you this little exercise to think about doing at home, which is to simply take the club and to simply activate your feet and legs. Now, I didn't say do this. I didn't say make the club bring your body. And I didn't even say stay neutral. Just simply drop the club, carry it, and make this motion with your feet and legs. Then practice left hand, put the club down, chin slightly to the right, and then swing. More power, more legs. Now, as we watch this action, one of the things that should be pretty obvious to you is that it's simply a mechanical fact that the more centrifugal force we create, the truer the action. And what does that mean? That when somebody told you, hit it easier to hit it straighter, they were telling you precisely the opposite of what you need to do. The further you want to hit it, the more you turn on that motor, and the truer the action becomes. Now I'm going to get a little technical here and show you something else. The more you turn on this motor, you turn your swing into an elliptical event. You see, you lower down, you move the knees, the swing becomes elliptical. Now what happens when the swing becomes elliptical? No longer are we confined to one point where the swing is true, but we have a window, 6 or 8 or 10 inches long, depending on the amount of leg work we do, where we can hit that ball relatively true because we're simply bringing the club through. Now, I told you it was automatic. It's not automatic if you put your hands on wrong, because if you're going from here and then trying to get up here, you have to make a move. See? So it all starts with the proper hands, the proper position, and it's truly automatic. A natural response to the top of the swing, you just simply turn on the motor and you stop thinking about your golf swing and you go out and do that golf swing. And the harder you hit it, as long as you do it with the motor, the truer the action is. The straighter and more affirmatively, positively the ball flies. That's all there is to it. Now at this point I want to help you find, through this little test, your master eye, because that's relevant to this head position. So what we're going to do now is help you find your master eye. Simply hold your fingers out in front of you and make a little space, a little window right in between your fingers. And let's look right up at this golf club. Look at the golf club, extend your hands with both eyes open, find the head of the club, both eyes open, looking through that space. Now don't move your head, don't move your hands, close your right eye. Did that thing just jump out of the way? For most of you it did. Open your eyes again, find it again, close your left eye, leave your right eye open, you probably still see it. About 80% of you, a typical audience, are right-eyed. Now how many of you are left-eyed, have a master left eye? See, it runs about 20%. You're very fortunate. You see, what you've been told, folks, is keep your head down. That's precisely the wrong thing to do. What happens when I put my head down? This is down, isn't it? I put my head down, and I make a swing, and the act of putting it down makes it come up. You see, in golf, we keep our head up, not down, but we do turn our chin slightly to the right. Now, for those of you over here who have the good fortune to have the master eye as the left eye, you're automatically probably already doing that. In other words, you're trying to and succeeding in seeing it out of your left eye, and you're doing like this. For the rest of us folks who are right-eyed, I want you to simply turn your chin, and you'll know you've done it when you see a little shadow of your nose when you're looking down at the ball. This opens up the whole swing, allows the motor to get on, gets the whole position into the proper gearing. But I do want to show you where the wrist cock is in golf. You may be surprised to find out that it occurs on the downswing rather than the backswing. See, if we place our hands here, simply lower the club, and simply take it back here, we haven't changed the position of those hands. But what happens is when we turn on the motor and come here, you see, centrifugal force brings the club down. Right here is the wrist cock. This is when we build up that additional energy. Now, when the motor turns us into the ball, you see, and the release is there, we do get the benefit of that. But it's nothing you have to think about. And that's the reason that I want you to start this motor with the feet rather than start the motor here. Because it's just here, start the motor, and there you go. What I want you to do, and I'm going to repeat the exercise we did earlier, now perhaps with your having a better understanding of the whys and the wherefore of the steps, is to simply take that club, push it out in front of you, Put your left hand, lower the club, not your body. Simply lower the club, then lower your knees. Turn the left foot out, turn the chin to the right, and start the motor right here. The more you do this, the more you get the feel. Do you hear the sound of a golf swing? When you can do this 30, 35, 40 times, and you're just as strong the last time as you were the first time, folks, you're ready to go out and hit some golf balls. Now you notice I never lose control of the club. The reason I don't lose control of the club is because I've placed my hand on there in a precise way, and I've built up my strength with the exercise. Okay, we'll start off with a review of Automatic Golf Part 1. Okay, now that's a review of the automatic golf system. That's all the preparation you need to place the proper hitting muscles in command of the shot. Now you'll recall that after we achieved the original starting position, or the proper original starting position, the next step in the automatic golf system was to do the golf motor exercise. The golf motor exercise, again, we grip the club, this time in our left hand only. We simply lower the club, then we sit down into the shot, turn the chin to the right, and we start swinging the club, held in the left hand only. Keep the chin back, apply the motion with the feet and legs, more power, more feet and legs. More power, more feet and legs. Well, folks, the good news and the bad news is, the good news is that hitting a golf ball is no more complicated than applying that little exercise I just did to a golf ball with the right hand riding on the club, adding nothing to the shot. The bad news is that no matter how much you know about it, you can't do it until you have learned to do that exercise and mastered the golf motor move. And I want to illustrate the importance of that with a little piece of equipment I've made up today. What I've done here is simulated one of the famous David and Goliath slingshots. You've read about it or heard about it. It's a little pouch with a couple pieces of string. And what I've done is scotch tape in a golf ball here. And now we all know, or we pretty much know, that the force in a golf swing is centrifugal force. That's how David beat that big old Goliath, using centrifugal force. But you know, even though we know that centrifugal force is the force of a golf swing, we all have a bit of misconception, or most of us do, about the central point. You see, if the central point, or the axis, the centrifugal force of a golf swing, was at our hands, we'd swing the club just about like this. But that's not the way we do it. You see, the axis point is the left shoulder. So the importance of the motor exercise that I've just showed you, and we discussed so much on film 1, is first of all to establish the axis right up here with your left shoulder. You see, when we do the exercise, everything is moving from the left shoulder, not from the wrist, from the left shoulder. Now, let's look back at this slingshot again. And if we start whirling this thing
real fast, we notice that the arc is perfectly true. We don't have to think about that arc being true. We don't have to think about that golf ball, which would be equivalent to the head of the club staying on path. All we've got to do is swing it, make it whirl. It's the same thing in a golf swing. You don't have to think about all these things. But what happens is, if I started thinking about where this thing is and tried to place it in different positions and had it break in the middle, I'd lose all of the dynamics, all the trueness out of the action. Well, that's the same thing that happens, folks, when you're dealing with a golf club. That's the same thing that happens when this hinge comes into play. All of the true whirling action of the golf swing from this hinge, caused by this motor, breaks down and disappears if we do this. So, folks, the second purpose of the exercise, first, to establish the proper hinge point, and secondly, over a period of time, to build up sufficient strength in this left hand so it can serve its function of maintaining the club in a proper position throughout the swing. Now, certainly we recognize that the club responds to the move, and that's where we have the automatic wrist cock. But as soon as we start doing this stuff, folks, it breaks down the action. So there's no replacing the exercise. Now, before we hit some balls, I'm again going to review the full automatic golf system right through the workout with the motor exercise. Extend the club out in front of us, the right hand, club at a 45-degree angle. In, over, and down with the left hand. The club gripped about 70% of our total gripping pressure, 60 to 70% in the last three fingers of the left hand. We find the space between the two ligaments. It's directly over the shaft. We feel the pull here. We don't allow the club to release. We come in, place the right hand on in the two fingers, two middle fingers, two middle pads, with only very light pressure, and the right thumb on the left side of the shaft. We simply then lower the club, and then we lower our knees, turn our chin to the right, and we start the motor move with the right foot and right knee. Now, the transition from the golf motor exercise to the swing is to simply place the right hand on in such a way that it does not impinge on or in any way change the exercise. You see, hitting a golf ball is nothing more than doing the exercise with the ball in the way. Now we're going to apply the same procedure to the driver. We're going to tee the ball real high, and if there's any sort of little tip that I want to give you golfers today, and that is to tee the ball very high with the driver. When you tee the ball low, you get an inordinate amount of backspin when you hit the driver. It gets out to the point of the ball gets out to the point of terminal velocity, and it falls flat. The really long drivers hit the ball from high to high, so tee the ball real high. Take about a million like that. Love it. Now we're going to show you some golf shots with the driver from the rear. And the significance of this point of view is that you can see the foot and leg action very, very clearly. after I hit the last one, which was quite excellent, Judy said, "Well, Bob, I could see it. You did it with your feet and legs." Folks, I want to introduce you to my golf club. This golf club has no moving parts. And every time I try to swing this golf club, it doesn't work. You see, this golf club wants to do the swinging. This golf club wants to swing in response to something I do, and that something is with my feet and legs. And as soon as you try to do something with this club, mine, yours, or anybody else's, it goes wrong. It goes wrong in direct proportion to the amount you try to do. All you're really doing is supporting this club, supporting it through the dynamics of this movement, and the club does the swinging. Oh, that's super. That's the best stroke one can put on a golf ball right there. Well, I'll take about 1,000,000 of them like that. We'll finish up our workout today like we suggest you finish up yours with the golf motor exercise. Don't do it before you work out with the balls every day. It'll make you a little tired, but afterwards, definitely do so. This is one of my favorite shots. I call it the pancake shot. And I want to give credit where credit's due. This and many of the other shorter shots were taught to me by John Guston, fine professional at the Birmingham Country Club, Birmingham, Alabama. The reason we call it the pancake shot is it goes up nice and high and drops nice and soft. And the purpose of this shot is to play over an obstacle, perhaps over a sand trap onto the green. Now this is one shot that violates the rule of no wrist, and here we are going to release the wrist. Now this shot is actually played very much like a sand shot out of a deep pot bunker. First thing that we do is make a grip adjustment. We place the club out in front of us, but we turn the blade open. About 10-15 degrees open, just as we would in a sand shot. And then with the blade open, we come in over and down on the club. Place the right hand on in the standard manner, and the meaning of that is that when we lower the club, it looks very much like it would look if we're playing a proper sand shot. The club is open. Now, the action of this shot is to pass the club under the ball. And the way we do that is we allow the hands to relax and we release the hand in much the same way we'd play out of a pot bunker. Thank you for attending Automatic Golf Volume 2, and ask at your favorite store for Automatic Golf, the Operator's Manual in book form. And soon to be introduced, look for the automatic golf balls. They're just as automatic as your willingness to apply the motor move to your golf game. There's two golden rules for golfers. One is do that golf motor exercise, and the second is take care of your body by remaining or getting flexible. I maintain my flexibility by doing a little routine that takes me less than 15 minutes 3 times a week. Recently, I videoed that program. I call it isometric stretch. And in 2 words, buy it. And in 2 more words, use it. You'll thank me. Before you join me in this exercise for inner thighs and the pelvic area, I'm going to use this exercise to demonstrate how the isometric stretch method works. We'll repeat the exercise, so just watch for now. Probably some of you have seen this exercise done before, or maybe you've done it. The objective here is to keep bringing your heels in, soles of your feet together, and to bring your knees down towards the ground. What I'm going to do here now is I'm going to use my elbows to increase the pressure on the inner legs and bring my knees closer to the ground. Now this is the static portion of this exercise. To do the isometric portion, I resist against my legs with my elbows. I don't allow my knees to come up, but I try to bring my knees up. I push my legs against my elbows isometrically and hold and push and push and push, and then I relax for a second or two. First time my dad ever took me to the golf course, I was 13 years old. Prior to that, for 3 years, I played tennis nearly every day of my life. Once I got to the golf course, I set down the tennis racket for a number of years. But I've still continued to love the game and love to watch it. And you know, the golf swing is a lot like the tennis swing, and I'm going to show you how that works now at 3 levels of play. When someone picks up an implement, whether it's a tennis racket or a golf club, the tendency is, well, I'm holding this thing in my hands. Let's hit this thing over the net or down the fairway with a big action of the wrist. And it really doesn't work, because if I hit the tennis ball that way, sometimes it goes way up in the air, sometimes goes over the net, and sometimes out to left field. Not very reliable whenever I change the pitch of that racket during the swing. Now, the intermediate tennis player soon realizes that they can have a lot more dependable shot production if they form a relationship between the racket and the arm, which is unchanged throughout the swing. So the intermediate player looks something like this. It's fine to hit every shot over the net, have most of them land in play, but if there's no power, there's not a lot of fun, and you're not going to beat a lot of folks. So once the intermediate player establishes that relationship and makes this stroke, if they want to go up to the advanced levels, they have to use the feet and legs. So the advanced tennis shot is an action very much like the advanced golf shot, in that the lower body leads the action. The fixed, established relationship stays the same through the shot, and we get a lot of power. Now, if we compare the 3 levels of golf ability in terms of shot production to the 3 levels of tennis ability, we see the same thing. We see the beginning golfer go out to the course, lock the knees, and try to do the whole thing with the wrists. You've seen this plenty of times. Now, the intermediate golfer soon realizes that if they establish a relationship between club and arms that's unchanged during the swing, they can have accuracy. But boy, there's no power here. And the advanced player establishes the relationship and then moves the club with the lower body. Your performance of the specialty shots on this program is dependent on your mastery of the basic automatic golf method. Although this video highlights many of the fundamentals from automatic golf, it is not designed to replace that program. Make certain that you have an automatic grip, starting position, starter, and golf motor move before attempting these more advanced techniques. During the demonstration of these shots, you will hear a number of terms used repeatedly relative to the stance and club face position. In golf, we have a shot that we call the punch shot, and I'm going to demonstrate that for you in a moment. Not only how to produce it, but exactly how to set up to produce it. But the equivalent of the punch shot in tennis we've just seen, that's that forehand drive. So remember the elements. When you practice in your backyard or against that wall with a tennis racket, and then bring it to the golf course because you can play both games equally well, we're going to establish a relationship between the racket and the arms. We're going to hold that right through the shot and drive that shot with feet and legs. So the way we accomplish that with a golf club, or in other words, the way we hit the successful punch shot, is we first start by gripping the club down on the shaft, maybe about 2.5, 3 inches. This is, of course, known as choking the club. But what it does is it creates a shorter implement. Everything else about the shot is the same, except that as a result of this change of grip, everything becomes smaller. We're standing closer to the ball. We're a little more seated. And most important, in the execution, what we want is a very limited swing. Now, the backswing is contained, but the drive with the feet and legs is full and powerful. So watch these points as I hit these punch shots. Controlled backswing, drive with the feet and legs. A lot of folks bring down their score by playing 2 balls. What I do on my private golf course is I play 2 pins. It really helps bring down the score. But in reality today, we have a valid reason for setting up this green with 2 pins. You see, if we look at the shot on the left, what we have is we have a very narrow margin because we have a tree on the left and we have the pin cut very close to the left-hand side of the green. So this is an ideal situation to hit what's known as the draw shot. Now, the draw shot is not a hook. A hook is a wild, uncontrolled shot that goes from right to left for a right-handed player. The draw is a gentle shot that moves from right to left under a lot of control. And so if we start this ball out just about at the left edge of the right-hand bunker and draw it in, we have a tremendous margin for error here. Conversely, if we look at the right-hand pin, we would have no margin for error here on a draw shot because that right-hand pin is set right behind the trap. And even a straight shot here gives us very little margin. So the ideal shot to play for the right-hand pin is a fade. And the fade is not an uncontrolled slice to the right. It's a gentle move of the ball from left to right for a right-hand player. Ben Hogan made quite a career out of playing the fade, so it's obviously an effective shot. Now, the execution of the draw and fade can be seen very easily, again, by using the tennis racket as the demonstrating instrument. If we're going to drive that tennis ball straight forward, we establish that angle and we move that racket straight through on line, moving our feet and legs. If we want that tennis ball to go down and to the left, really hook cross court, what we do is we still keep the same angle, but we bring that club up and over, and we would be hitting the tennis equivalent to the golf draw. Conversely, if that tennis opponent hits the ball short, we want to come into the net, hit what's known as a chip shot in tennis, or the equivalent of a fade shot in golf. We still keep the angle, we don't change the swing, but we change the angle of attack, and that would be equivalent to the fade shot in golf. So let's start with the draw. Now in this particular shot, if I were playing this shot absolutely straight, I would select an 8-iron. But the draw is going to go a little further than the straight shot, just the nature of the way it moves through the air. So I've got a 9-iron. Now to produce the draw shot, we have to make a couple of little minor changes in our setup, and then the swing remains exactly the same. The first thing that we do is in making the grip, attaching ourselves to the golf club in the draw shot, instead of bringing the left hand over and down with the space between the two tendons directly on top of the shaft, what we do is we make a slight adjustment of turning that left hand slightly to the right, about 1/4 of an inch. And that in turn turns the right hand slightly to that clockwise direction. Now the second adjustment is in the stance itself. Instead of using the normal open stance that we would use to hit a 9-iron in a straight flight pattern, we close the stance ever so slightly. And what this is going to do is change the angle of attack, where the club is going to come across the line, impart a gentle left-hand spin, and bring that ball in from right to left. So with those two minor adjustments and no change in our swing, here's what the draw looks like. After I get in proper position to hit the draw shot, my key thought, perhaps more on the draw than any other shot, is keep that chin back. That allows me to make the full inside turn, make the good aggressive move at the ball, and still keep the club inside the line. Now that we've taken a look at the swing itself, let's take a closer look at the relationship between the club head and the ball. Because the stance has been altered, we see that the path is more from the inside. And this inside path, striking across the ball, produces the right to left spin and the beautiful draw flight. When we fade the ball, we're going to lose a little distance. So as we look at the right-hand pin here, which is set up ideally for the fade shot, if I were hitting that shot in here as a straight shot, I would select an 8-iron. But in this particular case, I'm going to hit the 7-iron because the fade is going to travel, as I said, a little less far. Now to produce the fade shot, we make a slight adjustment on our grip, just the opposite of the draw change. Instead of coming in, over, and down with the tendons directly over the club shaft, we move the left hand very slightly, 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch, over to the left hand side. And of course that positions the right hand more on top of the club. The second adjustment is made in the setup. Whereas for a draw we were closed, for a straight shot slightly open, for the fade we're going to open the stance even more. This changes the angle of attack, where the club will come straight down the line with the blade slightly open, come on the inside of the path, put a slight right hand spin for a controlled fade. Now you're not going to see much difference in this fade swing than the straight or draw shot, because it's all in setup. But as we take a closer look at the relationship of the club head to the ball and the fade, we see that the angle of attack is somewhat different. The club is open, coming straight down the line, and this openness produces this beautiful but controlled left to right spin that the fade is all about. You know, there's a lot of occasions, particularly when you're playing with any kind of wind, because whether it's side wind, tailing wind, or into the wind, you want to keep the ball down low. And so there's a lot of occasions to hit what we call the knockdown or low shot in golf. Now, as we know, we only have one golf swing, and that's that automatic golf swing that you've already learned. So how are we going to hit the ball low? we're going to change the angle of attack. And the way we do that is merely make a little adjustment in our original starting position. So in this case, I'm using a 6-iron. But as you'll notice, when I set up this shot and move the ball back to the right in my stance, which will be easy to see, what we've effectively done is remove some of the loft out of the 6-iron. So we're hitting really the loft of, say, a 4-iron. Now there's no other changes in the swing, the action, the head position, everything remains the same. Except if you'll notice that that ball is well back to the right foot. What we're going to do now is show you how to hit the ball high. Now this is really obvious. If to hit the ball low, we move the ball back in the stance. All we've got to do to hit the ball high is play the ball forward. Remember that this shot is struck just like every other shot in golf, with our one basic swing only modifying the starting position. So the proper starting position for the high shot is just the opposite of the low shot. We move the ball well forward in the stance. And therefore we've created a situation where this 6-iron no longer will have the loft of a 6-iron at impact, but maybe of a 7 or an 8-iron. Now watch as I hit the shot, but the action remains exactly the same. So that you can use these shots to your greatest advantage, we're going to take a look at some sample situations that apply to the various specialty shots. When the pin is on the left and you have a big opening on the right, you'll certainly want to draw the ball in. Much greater margin for error. If there's trouble on the right, there's certainly a lot more reason to draw the ball in from right to left, away from the trouble. And both of these advantages, or advantageous situations, become enhanced if the wind is coming from the left to control the draw and keep it from overshooting to the left. If the pin is on the right with a big margin on the left, let's fade the ball in there. If we have trouble on the left side of the green, that's all the more reason to fade the ball. Perfect example would be a sand trap on the left side of the green. Now, if there's a wind from the right, it's going to protect us and give us all the more reason to select the fade for this shot. The low shot is used when we want to bring the ball under an obstacle that's relatively close. For example, we have a tree that's close. We can't get the ball up and over, so we play the low shot under the tree. But primarily, the low shot is used in any sort of a windy condition. We don't want to get the ball way up, either downwind or upwind or crosswind, so we select the low shot for most windy situations. The high is just the opposite. If the obstacle is some distance away from us, we're much better off playing the ball up and over that obstacle rather than trying to hit the knockdown shot under it. Another situation that's ideal for the high shot is if the pin is on the very front of the green. Let's bring that ball in nice and high and let it drop softly if we don't have much green to work with. There are a lot of occasions here at Desert Mountain Resort to use the punch shot. For example, if I've driven the ball on a short par 4 up into within, say, 90, 100 yards from the green, and really want to control that second shot, what I'll do is select a longer club, choke it down, get more spin on the ball, and hit the shot under more control. But what I want you to remember is that the punch shot is a great shot to practice because it enhances your leg move. In other words, it improves your golf motor move. On the automatic golf video, we talked about an exercise, left hand only on the club, preferably away from the golf course, no pressure, learn to produce the golf motor move. Well, here's a little exercise that you can do at the golf course, And the objective of this exercise, which is to hit all of these balls in series, is to get the feeling that the golf swing is kind of like a unisex event, that the rhythm of the backswing and that the rhythm of the follow-through, the downswing and the follow-through, are just mirror images of each other. And more than that, that a golf swing doesn't have to be an exact, precise, calculated event. Because of centrifugal force, all we have to do is keep the club in motion, and that centrifugal force is going to make the club come right onto the ball, right per schedule. Now, to do this the easy way first, tee up about 6 or 7 balls in a row, and all you do is put this club in motion and these balls will all fly in about an area as big as a blanket. Now the advanced version of this exercise, we remove the tees, maybe put another ball or two down in line, and same action. These golf architects, they love to put these bunkers just about the distance that you drive the ball. Well, fortunately, when this ball goes into a fairway bunker, it's probably going to come in at a low trajectory, it's going to bound, and it's going to sit up pretty well. And as an automatic golfer, you're well prepared to play this shot anyway, because the rules of golf say you're not allowed to sole this club in the sand trap. And since in every full shot we hit in automatic golf, we keep that club off contact, we're just light years ahead. Actually, I love to throw some balls into a fairway bunker and play this shot for practice. Because to play this shot well, it's just like the punch shot. You must drive with your feet and legs. If you try to scoop this thing out with your hands, you're just going to be nowhere. So what are the elements? The automatic golf swing, keeping the club off contact, chin pointed to the right, and this thing will come out of there just like it was sitting in the middle of the fairway. Well, gee, this is a fortunate situation. Not only did this ball get in here without bearing, but if you'll notice, I got in here without any footprints. And when I tell people how easy this shot is, they look at me kind of sideways. The reason that the sand shot is so easy when the ball is sitting up nicely like this is because we have a tremendous margin for error. It doesn't make any difference whether we contact the sand 2 inches behind the ball or 2.5 or 3 inches behind the ball. As long as we make this club pass under the ball, that ball is going to come out nice and soft and land up somewhere near that pin. Now in the process of making it easier for the club to go under the ball, you'll notice that I've rolled the toe way to the right. In other words, I've opened the blade of the club, and therefore the overall height of the club is much lower and will pass under the ball that much easier. Now sometimes these dudes fly directly into the greenside trap at a pretty high trajectory, and we get what's known as a fried egg lie. Now this thing is a little more difficult to extract because the ball is already submerged in this little conical depression. Now the objective here, we still have to get this club under the ball. And the way we do that is we not only open the blade, but we have to amend or change our swing. We have to take this club outside the path, down from a steep angle of attack. Now the ball is going to come out just a little bit hot. By that I mean when it hits that green, it's going to have some forward momentum. So we hope we have enough distance between the edge of the green and the pin, but we have to apply enough force to get it out, and if that means it goes beyond the pin, that's just what happens. Now when the sand is damp and the ball comes in at a high trajectory, what's usually going to happen is that ball is going to land. It's not going to make a conical depression as in the fried egg lie. It's just going to bury or half bury in that damp sand. And when we have this sort of a situation, we're not going to be able to pass that club under that ball. The moisture in the sand makes the sand too dense. The ball is sitting down too low. We close the club face. We close it extremely so that the nose of this club will come in, hit the sand 2-3 inches behind the ball. The damp sand will bounce off the club face, and it'll push the ball out. Now this ball is going to come out hot, which means that we can't carry it up on the green in this sort of a situation, or we'll be playing the next shot from the trap on the other side. So we don't need a lot of force. We just need to bring the club in, toe into the sand, pop the ball out, and have it carry into this bank, hopefully bound up in the air, take the heat off, and roll up to the pin. Now there's only 17 ways that this shot could have happened. Ball could have hit on the bank, rolled down to the lip of the trap. Ball could have hit on the far side of the trap, rolled clear across the trap to the lip. Ball could have landed just where it is. Your opponent could have come up and placed the ball in that position, and I guess there's at least a dozen or so more. But actually this shot is not too threatening. We're going to apply the same principles here as we've applied to the shot if the ball were sitting up in the middle of the trap. Now, that means that we're going to extract the ball by passing the blade under the ball. What it is unlikely that we're going to do is pass the blade under this bank. So this blade is going to come pass under the ball. It's going to get into the bank, it's going to stop, but that's going to have relatively little effect on the shot because we're already going to make contact with the sand well behind the ball. The ball hopefully is going to come up nice and light, get real close to the hole there. What I want you to watch for as I hit this little pitch shot is that I use the automatic golf swing, nothing changes, except I do it with a nice, slow, easy tempo. Just let that ball float off the blade of the club and approach the hole without a lot of backspin. There's a second way we can play this shot. If there's no trap between us and the pin, and we have some nice smooth terrain, we can play what's known as the pitch and run shot. To play this shot, we select, I've got an 8-iron instead of that pitching wedge that I used on the normal pitch shot. To play the pitch and run, the action is the same, but we're going to let the ball carry short of the green this time, bound up on the green, and hopefully run in the hole. The pitch and run, which we just looked at as a shot that can be used from 30, 40 yards out, is also a shot that can be used from the edge of the green. Now today we're going to deal with two ways to play this little shot of, maybe 15 yards. One of the ways will be the pitch and run, and the other we'll call the chip. But the chip has so many elements, like the putt, that we're going to come back and show you that after we show you the correct putting mechanics. Now, when we make a shot this small, we are reducing the scope of the golf swing so much that it's very easy to see what really happens. The action is slow, the scope of the action is quite small. So let's take a look at this golf club and analyze how we can hit these shots quite reliably, time after time, where they're going to go online or very close to online without any question about the fact that we're going to hit at least a pretty good shot. If we take and during the course of our backswing, swivel that club open, then during the course of the downswing, what do? We have to swivel it closed. And if we do that just right, the timing is perfect, we're going to hit a straight shot. But if our timing is a little off and we make contact there or there, we're going to hit a crooked shot. So the first element of having a good, reliable short game is to make certain that that club stays on line during the course of the whole action. Second thing is that if we change the pitch of the club by scooping with our wrists, then we only have one point in which we can make good solid contact. If we're a little late or a little early, we don't have good contact. So the second principle is that we're going to keep this club moving low and level. And we can accomplish that through either the pitch and run, or the chip shot. In the pitch and run, we use our lower body and we simply establish that club relationship and do the whole thing with our lower body. It's real questionable whether putting is an art, a science, or a religious event. But no matter what it is for you, the first thing you got to do is know your putter intimately. And the first thing that you'll notice about this putter of yours is that if it's made properly, that there's loft built into the putter. In other words, we have a degree of angle away from the shaft in the same way we would with a 2 or a 3 iron. Now, without dealing with how much loft is correct, because there's no exact formula there, let's discuss why the loft is built into the putter. If we're trying to roll the ball along the ground, it seems that there'd be no reason to have the loft. The reason that we have a loft is that the very first thing that happens when this putter head strikes the ball, particularly if the putt is of any distance, is that the ball actually, because of this loft, leaves the ground very slightly. And when it restrikes the green, it then develops that beautiful end-over-end spin that makes the ball die into the hole instead of lipping out. So the first principle of putting is that we want to maintain this loft throughout the putting stroke. And therefore, we have to move the putter head and our hands at the same speed. You see, if we move our putter head faster than the hands, we have a stroke that looks like this. And there's only one point at which we can strike the ball when the correct amount of loft is there. Principle number 2 of putting, we borrow from the little pitch shot that we just hit. If we take and roll this putter open on the backswing, we have to make a residual closing action when we make contact. And if we're just a little bit off, we're going to hit that putt way offline. So principle number 1 is to maintain the loft by moving the putter head and the hands at the same speed. Principle number 2 is to keep that blade on line throughout the whole putting stroke. Let it follow its natural arc, no opening and closing, or closing and opening during the stroke itself. Now, the grip in putting is a tremendous departure from what we've been using in the rest of the automatic golf shots. We position our entire hand, right hand, in contact with this putter grip. And the way we do that is we put the right hand on first, just the opposite of the normal gripping. So we get all of these fingers right on the shaft and this thumb right up on top of the shaft. After we've positioned the right hand, we then bring the left hand over, and the forefinger of the left hand comes over the little finger of the right hand. The thumb of the left hand is right on top of the shaft. Now, when we lower that down to the ball, it looks like this. Both thumbs on top of the shaft, all fingers of the right hand on the shaft. Now, with this grip, we are in a position to stabilize that putter so that we can move the hands and the putter head at the same time, and we can also stabilize the putter and prevent the rotation so that we can move this thing squarely. We want to maintain this loft throughout the stroke. So if we move our hands way here, we've eliminated or actually created a negative loft on this putter, and that won't work. The ball will be pinched into the green, and if it does hit the hole, it'll tend to skip out. And if we move back here, we've changed the loft of the putter too. So we put our hands directly over that putter head so that the natural loft of the putter remains. Now the action of the putt is super simplicity. We simply move the putter head and the hands at the same speed, and the ball rolls beautifully. Before we demonstrated the putting, I promised you another method to play these little shots from the fringe of the green. Now we've already showed you the little pitch and run shot. What I'm going to show you now is the chip using the putter grip. Now from this distance, on these little easy shots, you should hole out pretty frequently if you use this method. Now we grip the club for this little chip shot in the same way that we did with putter. And that means that we're using here, in this case, a 7-iron, and this is the first time in the automatic golf video and all through the early parts of this video that we've taken a club other than a putter and changed the method. Now the reason we do this is that the distance is so small that we don't need to create dynamic action in the shaft. All we need here is a reliable repeating action. The elements of putting are here, so we use a putting grip. And remember how that works? We put all of the fingers of the right hand on the club, and then we overlap the left hand with the forefinger of the left hand overlapping the small finger of the right hand, and both thumbs down the shaft of the club. Now it'd be a good idea to shorten that club a bit, maybe choke it down about 3 inches will be fine. And then all we do is use our putting stroke
This is my new gym in Malibu, California. I'm really proud of it, and I hope when you folks come out to California, you'll drop in and visit and work out with us. We've got all the current high-tech goodies. It's a really pretty gym, and we're only a few hundred yards from the ocean. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person in Bob Mann's Malibu gym.